So if you know at least a little bit about philosophy, or if you study philosophy, you know that what comes after you kill God, right? You know, God is dead and we have killed him. That famous quote. What happens after that is it brings about this question, right? Is what do we do now? You know, people are gonna find new things to replace it with, because that is gonna probably fill a void that is it just somehow is kind of embedded in us to always have that kind of void, that hole, you know, and God is a very good way to fill in that hole, right? Whatever that hole is. And you know, people are gonna have to find a new like thing to follow that is gonna tell them morality and tell them all this stuff that people normally take from the Bible. Not like they necessarily invented morality, but they definitely popularized it, and you know, they make claims about what living righteously is. You know, well, pretty much most religions do this. Christianity's not the first one to do it either. But you know what comes about when you realize and you believe that there is no God is that you have to find some other meaning, right? You have to go out and seek for it. You have to look for it, because it's not inherent. It's not just, it doesn't just come prepackaged and embedded into the universe like, oh, I'm just alive and oh, I've been given a purpose by my creator, God. It used to be so simple when you could just simply, you know, leave it there and leave it at that and not have to look any bit further. You know, you could just leave it there and be like, yeah, God, it gave me my purpose. God is my purpose. Being on the righteous path is my purpose, so that I can end up going to heaven. That's purpose, right? It's like, oh, okay, it all makes sense now. It all is nice and neat, and it's all a cohesive worldview that I can have, and it all lines up, and it comes together, right? I have this Bible and this prophecy and this scripture to look up to and believe in, and all of this stuff. And when you lose that, well, these things come about. Oh, I clicked the wrong button. God damn, that did not work out.
It begins with nihilism,
Okay.
the philosophy that life has no meaning and the world is here for no reason. Do a little dance, make absolutely no love, get incredibly down tonight. Suddenly, existentialism is getting popular. The main idea being, okay, maybe we aren't here for divine reasons, and the world has no absolute purpose, but that's kind of neat, because
absolute.
it means you have no shackles, beholden neither to gods nor kings. First and foremost, you're not an employee or a citizen or a digital nomad, but a person. First, you are a person, also meaning that every decision is your own, but also meaning no one is coming to the rescue. And most importantly, no one is really in charge. And it's hard not to sympathize today with that. Have you looked around? Where are the real adults? Billionaires don't seem all that happy, politicians don't seem all that uncorrupted, and personally I won't be taking any life advice from someone who dresses up as a chess piece. The beauty of that anarchy though, one can self-create meaning. Life is not something done to one, but...
Yeah, I think even Albert Camus, he touched in on how nihilists, you know, that you can see where they were going with it, but you're missing something. Like, I think you're inadvertently skipping a step in logic, wherein you're saying that there is no... You know, you're claiming that there is no self-evident, you know, just total absolute purpose to the universe that we can just figure out and find. Like that's just there, right, for us. It's there for us. We don't have to really work too hard to find it. It's just there, right? And we realize, hey, maybe there is no fucking meaning to any of this, you know? And we have this ability to logic and reason out and put that up against the great complexities of life itself. You know, we can reason out our own life. What other animal can do that? Oh, is my life worth living? I don't think any other animal really, you know, ponders that question. They just wonder what their next meal's gonna be, but they don't really have the ability to reason out whether living is even worth it. Like, that's kind of crazy to me that we're like one of the only animals that can do that, you know? And people do that all the time, and they say, well, the nihilists, you know, they're basically making a claim that there is no purpose, right? They're not saying there is no purpose. They're claiming that the purpose is that there is no purpose. You know, if that makes any sense. Like, by claiming that there is no purpose, right? You're making the claim that the purpose, that the thing that's there is no purpose. You're basically saying, oh, none can be found. Basically, we're just going to say it's nothing. That's the purpose. None. Nothing. That's what goes in place of purpose. But purpose is always going to be there, you know? It's just like, it's a placeholder. Like, what are you going to put in there? You know, you can go out, and the existentialist goes out and, you know, he does his will to power, his will to freedom. He uses his will, and he tries to figure out a way to make life worth it. You know, make life find something worth living for. You know, do something with your life. Do something. Make it worthwhile. Be the best person that you can be. You know, be unique. Be the original. Be the Uberman. You know, all of that stuff. And the nihilists, they just fall a little bit short.
Something one does. Albert Camus had other ideas though. A French-Algerian thinker, originally destined to be a footballer until he contracted tuberculosis, Camus agreed with some of existentialism's diagnoses, but disagreed about the medicine. Sure, we're abandoned to freedom, he granted, but so what? The real problem is that we are machines hungry for meaning and purpose, yet destined to look for it in a universe that is nevertheless cruel, unpredictable, and apparently completely apathetic to us. We will be hatched, matched, and dispatched, all the while probably never working out what it was all for. Don't look at me like that. You clicked on this video. Camus reasoned there are maybe only 3 courses of action available to us in such a ridiculous situation. 1. Refusing to play the game, as in ending one's life. And don't do that, please. 2. A leap of faith, or placing faith in something that there is meaning somewhere. This could be anything from believing in a deity to consulting a sentient melon called Terence before making major life decisions. Or 3. Absurdism, full recognition and acceptance of our absurd situation, of the harshnesses and slights of life, of the fact that we'll probably never attain absolute truth and purpose, and not surrendering to that in a blaze of nihilism, but living in spite of it, a revolt against meaninglessness itself. As Camus put it, the only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. Because it isn't meaninglessness that hurts, Camus insisted, it's the contradiction of needing meaning and not getting it, particularly our inability to let go of the contradiction itself. For example, ever since
That's the ultimate rebellion, is to keep living just for the sake of living?
my teens, I've been rather terrorized by the question, why is there something rather than nothing? Because what we're really asking, probably, is why is there anything here at all? Meaning, presumably, either the universe had a beginning in time, or it had no beginning in time. Well, alright,
the universe
let's
is
imagine
time.
Everything began with the biggest of bangs 14 billion years ago. Fine, but if that was the beginning of time and stuff existing, then there can't have been anything before that by definition. Nothing but nothingness. And how can nothingness create stuff? Even if something exotic preceded the Big Bang.
I always thought that, but this is just our ability to use logic and the way that we know how things can kind of work out based on the, you know, laws of physics and how we see things working out here on Earth. Oh, animals have sex, they create a baby, right? So it's like cause and effect. We're thinking causal, you know, we're thinking spatially in spatial terms that we can, you know, sense, and we're talking casually. I think it's just origin, right? This is the universe origins right here, right? This is how it starts. It just started, you know. Our mathematic might be a little bit wrong, might not necessarily be a Big Bang, but I guess it had to originate somewhere, you know. So it originates somewhere, and I guess origin is just origin. There's no need to think about how nothing can create something, because it's not going to make sense to us. We're not built to understand the universe. But I think that's literally just how it goes. Like, literally, yeah, I guess nothing created something. And that might seem absolutely like a dumb answer. I'm not satisfied with it, but like, that might just be what it is. Nothing created something, yeah. And it was just origin. It just popped out, pooped out. It just got ejaculated. Oh, it's like
a quantum fluctuation or whatever. Well, alright, but that's not nothing, that's a different something. And we're back to asking the same question. What came before that? And that? And that? Looking
I
for
always
the first
thought that way too.
uncaused cause until one's head simply fucking explodes. Okay, maybe creation has been around forever then. The universe had no beginning in time. Well, that solved the whole something from nothing problem. Maybe the Big Bang was the next iteration in a cycle of universes. Expansion, collapse, expansion, collapse. Yeah, okay, but how does that work either? Maybe some weird perversion of general relativity. Maybe the universe creates itself from the end of time. But again, shouldn't that have started somewhere, even if the starting point is in our future? How can any system exist without a defined beginning? And yet, if the universe had one, then it must have come from literally nothing. I used to find, if I thought about this for too long, it inspired the same kind of horror as when you realise that third joint was a bad idea. Why do both positions seem reasonable and yet completely contradictory? In academic bollocksy talk, this is called an antinomy. Two premises that work
Well, they don't have to be the only two options.
fine by
And I think there could be more options than that.
themselves, but won't reconcile. A paradox, in other words. And the beginning of the universe is hardly the only one. Like, is matter infinitely divisible, or is matter finitely divisible? Can you keep blowing particles open until you reach a string or quark or something at the bottom of nature that you can't divide anymore? And if so, why? Or can you just keep peeling the universe open like an onion, divisible all the way down? And if so, why? And for that matter, have all events already happened and we just have to live through them, much like sitting through a film where the real is already there in the projector? Or is the present the only true moment, the past gone, the future not existing yet? In either case, why? Or are all of our choices predetermined?
I think that's a bad question. But it seems it's built and embedded into us to ask that question. It just comes naturally to us. Now that's the bigger why. Why does that question come naturally to us? That's probably the better why. Maybe we might be able to actually answer that one. Why is it that we question the universe so much and we have to know why? Why is it that we want to know why to all of these very broad and abstract and complex and complicated shit? Why do we have to know why? Why do we have to ask why? Why is that the first question we ask? Why? I don't think that's very appropriate.
By every material state that came
I even
before
used
us.
to tell my physics teacher, I was like, you know what, the Big Bang Theory, that's so half-assed. And then I came to realize,
It's giving us no
yeah, it's not actually half-assed. I can see why that's a theory.
real choice in anything. How to tell the difference. Likewise, one day could we conceivably know everything about how the world works? And on that day, could we be sure there wasn't something missing? Ignorant of our own ignorance? How would we know? Then there are all the wibbly human paradoxes. Why do terrible things happen to good people and vice versa? Why can't we gain full control of our own minds? Where is the line between the conscious and the subconscious? Are the mechanics of consciousness us as well? Are we all of it, the mechanism and the mind? Because it doesn't feel that way. And finally, if we've been abandoned to total freedom and drift about in the existential ocean captaining a ship of one, with no rules to life but those we give it, how are we supposed to find meaning or belonging or just the bare basics of a reason to live in a universe this unkind and uncaring, where hopelessness seems inevitable, pitted daily against tragedies with no explanation, maladies defying medicine, and let's be honest, other humans who are just straight up cocks? How can anyone live like this, with so much unexplained or random or totally contradictory? Who wouldn't lose their minds?
With
Who wouldn't
absurdism.
fall into nihilism?
That's
Who
what he's
wouldn't
getting at.
lose all hope and reason for being?
The absurdist, you know, the myth of Sisyphus. and that.
Albert Camus wouldn't. That's where all this is heading, obviously.
Yeah.
Another small detour first, though, because I wrote this next bit while I was quite high. Hey, in 1914, Ernest Shackleton and a crew of 27 embarked on an expedition. Their plan? To cross the Antarctic by foot. So, off they sailed south on the South Atlantic Ocean. 4.5 stars on Google reviews for some reason. By early 1915, however, their ship, the
You can review the South Atlantic Ocean? Since when?
Endurance, was trapped in
What, they got a Yelp review now?
pack ice, inexorably drifting south in it. Soon enough, the ice kindly crushed the Endurance and sank it, and soon enough, there they were, lost on the frozen plains of nothing. And so they wandered, by foot, by lifeboat, for months. They came upon an island, finally, Elephant Island, the first land in 500 days. But so what? They were still marooned and no help was coming. Shackleton and a few others set off to mount a rescue effort, while the rest of the crew stayed behind to try and, well, not die. Shackleton found help 800 miles later, returned to his crew, and everyone got home alive eventually. And even though the expedition was a failure technically, it's remembered today as one of the greatest tales of modern survival. But what's strange is reading about how the crew lived all those months stuck, intolerably cold, waiting for Shackleton to come back with help, though knowing it was very unlikely he would return. They put on silly plays for each other, made a tradition of moonlight walks, and laughed often. 1,000 miles from anyone, perhaps the most isolated humans in the world at the time, they retained their humanity. As Alfred Lansing writes, in some ways they had come to know themselves better. In this lonely world of ice and emptiness, they had achieved at least a limited kind of contentment. They had been tested and found not wanting. Which is exactly where absurdism begins. Because aren't we on the ice, freezing and isolated? Aren't we tortured by the same questions the stranded crew were? Is rescue coming? Will we make it? What the hell are we even doing here? Aren't we just as marooned, thrown into this era, in these situations, in these bodies, by physics and chaos and biology and history and God knows what else, and expected somehow to live through it?
And the genetic lottery that will then go on to define the parameters by which you can live your life.
How do we live through it? Oh, Camus replied, by being very, very French, with passion and freedom and a revolt, with the passion to pursue the joy of being for the sake of it, with the freedom to at any moment choose to continue, to choose to live, to create hope internally, and with the spirit of revolution, a rebellion against the harshness and strangeness of existence itself. Nothing will last, and maybe I'll never understand what the world is here for, what I'm here for. Then I'll live even more intensely. I won't just gaze into the abyss, I'll maintain uncomfortable eye contact with it. I'll go get laser eye surgery so I can stare even harder.
You think you're empty abyss? You should see my fucking DMs, mate.
What would Camus do? Eat, pray,
Relatable.
love, sure, but equally well, drink, blaspheme, shout profanities at lampposts, take up the mandolin, dye one's dick blue, no idea. But this is the burden of freedom. This is the weight of being. This is absurdism. Perhaps there's a holy watcher in the sky. Perhaps we're an alien experiment. Perhaps it's all just atoms and chance. Who can be sure? Not us. Not yet. But we can dance in the mystery, absurdism says, with the dance as the point all along. Born into an absurd theatrical performance that makes no sense, and rebelling against the lack of sense itself by being better and kinder and weirder. Living inside a paradox and still doing the dishes, knowing we might never know what it was all about, and carrying on anyway. Courage isn't the absence of fear, courage is the mastery of fear. It is saying to oneself, wow, that thing really scares me.
Is willing to do something in spite of fear.
I guess I'll just go ahead and do it anyway, though. Likewise, absurdism isn't an answer to the mysteries of life, why bad things happen, where the universe came from, or how to survive this shit. It's just asking the question, oh god, what if we never achieve final explanations? What if we never see the big picture? What if we go our whole lives without ever having known what it was all about? And replying to oneself, oh look, it's a puffin. It's a nice puffin. It's a nice day.
It's a cute puffin. Look at that ocean.
We're alive.
Meaningless,
That's
but beautiful.
unprecedentedly weird and cool, whether it's fully explained or not.
It's beautiful. I wouldn't want to swim. I can't swim.
I
wouldn't want to go down to its depths.
Let's go for a beer.
I like that.
Sorry, one more thing. Another shameless book plug, huh? I got
Respect, Exerbia. Get your money, dog. Get the plugs. Nihilism is living with a why. Absurdism is living with a why not. Exactly. It's also more like living with a why not? I guess it's the best explanation. I can't think of something else, but absurdism. Probably my favorite. Along with existentialism, I mean, those two they go hand in hand. I don't respect nihilism, if you have to ask me. I'm not a big fan. I might look at you weirdly if you tell me you're a nihilist. I'm gonna be like, what you mean by that? Because, like, it seems like the two best options when you're coming up, those are, like, the three when it comes to, like, philosophies of, like, the 19th and 18th century. Well, I think it's, like, 19th century because it's, like, 1800s mostly. But also, yeah, 19th, 20th century, I guess. Philosophies of meanings of life, and, after all of this comes, like, postmodernism, I think. It's like, oh, well, we can't. Well, you're just making claims with your reasoning, and your reasoning is limited. Like, you couldn't make the claim that it's either existentialism or absurdism. Like, you're super limited, blah, blah, blah. It's like, there's no point in arguing this. There's no point in even making up these concepts. Philosophy is complex, man. And it's convoluted, but I'm going to end it right there. No need for it to go on any longer, man. Hopefully y'all enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Keep being absurd or existential.